four core principles of V8 are UI refinement, which includes infinite editing and some other stuff. Code cleanup, so getting rid of all the legacy.
Yep.
The variance is a feature, and there's one other thing. What is it? New cache? Or is that under code cleanup?
Really, V8 is code cleanup and maybe concepts cleanup. It's just making more sense. It's a bit of UI with infinite editing and cleanup, and it's variance. That would be the three.
Cool.
That is V8.
Awesome. So it's functionally quite similar to V7. They brought a lot of the stuff forward from what was planned for V8 into V7. The one thing that isn't is this new cache. So the idea being it's a B tree on the in memory, and then there's a copy on the file system as well, instead of being an XML-based cache. So it should be faster, and it allows for all kinds of magic to happen under the hood with having multiple versions of content, etc. The big change has been kind of getting rid of all this legacy. So any APIs that previously existed have almost been rethought. They've been given clearer names. So instead of get property value now, you do .get value. Just makes no sense. I think dynamics, or the use of dynamics, is being removed. Everything should be strongly typed and whatever.
They have been removed already. Dynamics are entirely gone.
Excellent. Cool. And then there's this concept of variance, which has actually been baked into the new APIs. So with get value, you should be able to get multiple versions of a property, because there could be variants of a type or a property. Very quickly, we'll just dive through the installer. So admin, test. Oh, I can't type today. Test. So install, it's got a lovely pig as the installer. Stefan has a story behind this, right?
The pig. It was initially because when I started to explain V8, that was my vision of version 7. It was quite happy, kind of cute. Version 7 is working quite well, but it has this sort of dirty feeling when you use it, like anything that good, and maybe it smells a little bit. That is, the pig is version 7 basically.
That's brilliant. Okay, so diving into the new V8 back office, when this loads up, you'll notice one big change, super innovative. The bar along the top, the bar is along the top now. It's moved from the left to the top. It's as well, this developer section is actually being removed, as far as I know, Stefan.
So hold on, my screen is doing weird things. Yeah.
So developer section's going.
Yeah, well, it's going to be, we haven't agreed on the name, but it's basically going to be settings, and we want to probably work at permission level and say, in settings, I want to see this, and that. Well, so maybe not everything can be visible to everyone, but having the two makes no sense. So they're going to be merged.
Yeah.
What you might notice is you get logged out a lot of time when you use the interface. I'm not entirely sure why it happens. So if someone wants to figure it out, fine. I don't know. Sometimes you move from one section to another and you get logged out.
Yeah. Cool. But other than that, kind of
But that's not a feature. That's
some UI polish. But other than that, this is pretty familiar Umbraco functionally. So in the settings, you can still create doc types and templates and whatever. So let's just start by creating a doc type. I can call this homepage, and I can add a tab, with content, and I can add property. Now you'll see that the menu overlays here. So I want to add a body text property, and on there I want to now select my what is this called? It's still a data type, or is this a it's still a data type, right?
Property editor.
Property editor. Cool. It's still a data type then. But the settings of that have been renamed. So if I want to just
we still have property editors that are based on data types. It's when you go to configuring a data type, like changing options, that was called pre-value, which is weird. And it's now called data type configuration. So everything can check here, say, oh, I want to enable, undo, redo, which needs to be saved somewhere. That's the data type configuration.
Yep. But functionally very, very similar to what we've already got. The thing you'll notice here is a bit of UI sugar. So because I was editing something, because I was editing something contextually, I can hit this cog and the rest of the UI sort of just collapses away, and the thing I want to edit is then the context that I'm editing in, which is really, really nice, a way of kind of editing a lot of things infinitely in the editing feature. For some reason, I can't add a property right now, so let's try a different one. Yeah, cool. So that there has just created a doc type for me, and in the same way as before, I can make sure that this is allowed at the root, and I can just go in and create a home page and test page. Cool. So that's everything that everyone's probably already familiar with. A change you may notice is that there is no longer tabs in the UI. Before, you could create a tab called content, and that would, or whatever you want, SEO, and that would appear along the top, but no longer. Now we have this concept of content apps. As far as I know, this is going to be a way that you can plug additional stuff into the UI for editing content, and then tabs are displayed in this kind of collapsible accordion here. But the editing experience is pretty much the same. There is this killer feature in V8 called variants. You can do one-to-one translation in the core. So if I want to say, I want Spanish or something, Spanish, and I want to set this language to be optional, then I want to say that my doc type here is allowed to be variant by culture. That will then provide me with the option within the UI to have two different versions of content. So here, this is English. I can, test page, and I can save that, but then I can go straight to the Spanish version of that content when it saves, and I can set this to be Spanish. And save that there too. So I believe now if I toggle back.
L test page.
Sorry?
That should be L test page. Desktop. L test.
So that's not actually worked because of something. Have I? Yes. So because that field wasn't set to be allowed to be variant, the content doesn't update. So now if I put English in here and save that and jump to the Spanish, you'll see that it's got different content.
A quick note on that side. When you edit a variant like a culture, you're editing that culture, and if you switch in the pull down list, you start editing the other culture, but it's basically reloading the entire page in the other culture. So you're not really editing all cultures at once. This is a limitation that we have today, so it's going to be fixed. So if you feel like this is weird, I change the English title and the Spanish title, and then I say save, and it's losing one of them. Well, you have to change it in one culture, save, changing in the other culture, save. It's a bit stupid, but we know, and it's going to change. So don't create tons of issues around that variant thing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And then because now I've got two versions of my content, essentially the publishing flow changes slightly. So when I click publish, by default it's selected. This dialog will appear, and by default it's selected to publish the language that I'm currently editing, or the variant I'm currently editing. But you can then select another variant and click publish at the same time. and that will then create that. You can also introduce a variant that is required. So let's say French in this case, and we'll make this a mandatory language. So by clicking save and coming back to my content, I'll now have an option to edit French content. And we'll put bonjour in there. And, actually, if we try and publish the, because I made this a required language, if I try and publish the English, it will say you can't do that because French is required. So then only until I click French can I actually publish stuff. And validation failed probably because I have the property in there.
Do those language variants have different URLs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you go to the info tab once everything is published?
Yes.
Are you really running on the very latest version?
Yes.
Because you should not see that menu, that thing is published but not in the cache anymore. That has been fixed. This is weird.
This was the version pulled from the branch this morning.
Then this is annoying. This is weird. Okay. In theory, here you should see two links with the two URLs. Well, you probably need to configure host names too. Otherwise, it doesn't really know how to create the URLs. But the quick answer is yes. Each culture has its own URL based upon the name.
I was just thinking, could it be used for A/B testing as well?
Well, what you're seeing here is the culture variation. Like we have two very different things. One is you can vary by culture. Like have the French and English version, and then they have different URLs. And you can say you have mandatory values, etc. And what's not enabled at all in the UI, and it's even a question to know whether it's going to be enabled in version 8.0 because creating the UI is complex, is varying by segment. So technically the APIs support it. Varying by segment would be what you would use for A/B testing. So you could say my site is not multilingual, there's only one culture, but I want to say this property can vary by segment, and the segment is a string value, so it could be A and B, and then it would be only one URL, so it's always going to the same place, but then you have a mechanism to say I want to render the A value or the B value, something like that. But that's not part of 8 at the moment. The low-level plumbing is done and works, but the rest is not done. Like the story, how you would use it, how it would make sense, etc., is not complete.
Yeah, and that is fundamentally different to the variant because variant is at a document level, whereas segmentation is at property level. Is that right?
That's a way to understand it, yes. You basically can say, I want to publish the English version or unpublish the English version. So it's basically at very high level, content level. You're not going to say, I want to publish the A version of my content. It's really, I want to republish my content and I have changed the A and B version or something like that. But you're never going to publish like a segment. You can publish French or publish the whole document or publish English or unpublish Spanish. And then you can specify several values, A/B values or whatever, but that's all.
Yep. Cool. Then we mentioned there's been a lot of code cleanup, so the solution is vastly cleaner. It's now 3 DLLs. So the Umbraco Web, which has got all of the stuff you'd expect in there, Umbraco Core, all the other stuff, and Examine ships out of the box. And then it's kind of very easy to find stuff now, so it's where you'd expect. There are these legacy folders, which I believe, Stefan, is just a place for you to dump stuff that needs to be refactored. They're not going to be there when we launch the app. But other than that, it's pretty clear where to find stuff, I think, now. Have I missed anything in this very brief overview?
I think that's a good intro.